If you love boxing, you're gonna love this.
Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the BoxNation podcast. I'm your host Davies, and I am joined by a man who, well, let me put it this way. If you show him a half-empty glass, he will tell you that it's half full. It is, of course, Mr. Steve Lillis.
Hey, Dev, how are you doing, my man?
I'm good. Do you like that?
I like that one. Yeah, you get better every week. You've got to keep bettering yourself. I want something even better next week.
Well, last week I just said he needs no introduction and gave you no introduction. How did you feel about that one?
I don't need any introduction when I'm in the hot seat with you, Davies.
Now, Steve, your rant last week on penalising fighters who miss weight drew a lot of praise online. That was vintage Steve Lillis. You've been feeling the love online?
Yeah, seen a bit of it. Few people disagreeing, few people agreeing. Yeah, you know, but it's how I feel.
Yeah.
About weight making in these world title fights. But as I say, I still fear nothing. You know, in the last week, we haven't heard anything from any of the governing bodies. And as I said last week, something will be done eventually when it's too late.
Well, this week it was confirmed that Liam Beefy Smith will be taking on Sadam Ali for the WBO World Super Welterweight title on May the 12th. We hear from Liam Smith and his trainer Joe Gallagher on that big world title fight. I popped down to Dalton to pay Ohara Davies a visit, who had a lot to say for himself. Some of it isn't very kind about Jack Catterall, so we're going to give Jack Catterall the right of reply live on the show. We hear from Josh Warrington ahead of the biggest fight of his life. I caught up with Zelfa Barrett following his first career defeat, and we look back on the best of the weekend's action. Enjoy. It was confirmed earlier this week that the former WBO World Super Welterweight champion Liam Smith would be taking on current champion Sadam Ali for his title in New York. The fight will take place on May the 12th, and it's a chance for Beefy to get his old belt back. Steve Bunce caught up with Liam Smith and asked him when he first found out that the date was set and the fight was official.
I kind of knew for a couple of weeks that it's going to be May 12th, Steve, and you know, both teams were in negotiations back and forth. So, you know, I was quietly confident that it would always happen. So, you know, I knew it's kind of a done deal for maybe a week.
And because of his win over Cotto, he's got himself a lot of exposure. He won a lot of friends with that victory, so that gives you added incentive.
Yeah, he does, and you know, as much as you can say it was a fade of Cotto, he's got to win over Miguel Cotto. I think any fighter would love that, you know, that win on their record, and he's got it, and he's also got the belt to go with it. So, you know, you have to take him seriously. He's a world champion, and you know, he's only lost to one fighter, and a very good fighter. But all being said, that welterweight.
And in all fairness, you know, people might say that was a faded Cotto, an old Cotto who's past his best. I'm telling you, he still made Sadam Ali work, and Sadam Ali really stepped up on the night. That wasn't a walkover performance against a dead old man.
No, it definitely wasn't, Stephen. Sadam Ali's a very, very good fighter, and you know, not many people will have known because he hasn't had the marquee fight. That was his big marquee fight against Cotto, and he took it with both hands. He's a very good fighter himself. He's got some good wins back at welterweight, and he's fought at a high level. And you know, he's also an Olympian. You don't get really bad fighters who go to the Olympics, Stephen.
So, Liam, no problems about travelling over to America. It's not like he's got 15,000 hometown fans inside that arena, right?
No problem at all. You know, I went over there for the toughest task of all, and it never fazed me in the slightest. You know, I didn't lose to Canelo Alvarez because I was fazed by the occasion. And the same with this, I'll go over there with no phase at all. Sadam Ali's a good fighter, and that's the only thing I go over with in mind. I don't care about where it is or what it is. I'm just happy I got the shot.
Liam, were you disappointed when you found out about the Alvarez, the Canelo failed clenbuterol test? Did it disappoint you?
It did to a certain extent, Steve, because, you know, as much as I've lost to him, I'm a fan. Yeah. You know, and it kind of disappointed me in that sense. I'm a fan, and I'm kind of, you know, in awe of his ability. He's some fighter, and after the first Golovkin fight, it made me raise me opinions on him again. I thought, you know what, you are a very, very good fighter, and I've lost to a class fighter. And I think it just dampens his reputation, and it ruins him a little bit. You know, it ruins his reputation in a lot of people's minds, and it kind of ruins his reputation in my mind also, to be totally honest with you. And I'm not really gutted over because I've lost to kind of calling him a cheat in that sense. But I just think he's ruined his reputation a little bit.
Yeah, I do too. Now, during the last 18 months or so, it's been you at the top of the pile. You've had to beat Liam Williams twice, and they've been bloody, gory fights. But suddenly, the British light middleweight's going crazy. Kell Brook's out there, Amir Khan's out there. Fancy a bit of either of those two?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think they've probably got their own options of fighting each other with them both being matchroom. But like I say, I go and beat Sadam Ali. That puts a spanner in the works for them too. Both of them will want me and my title. So, you know, I go and beat Sadam Ali. I'm top of the three again. You know, as much as people will say Amir Khan's top or Kell Brook's top, I go and beat Sadam Ali. I'm back top of that three, and I've got the world title. I've got the piece of the puzzle that they'll both want. So, you know, I beat Sadam Ali, and I'm in a massive position again for big fights.
I'm really pleased, and I can hear from your voice that you realise and you recognise that Sadam Ali is a good fighter. He's not a guy that feasted on some relic. He's a good fighter, and I'm delighted to hear that in your voice.
Yeah, he is. I've followed him for a number of years, as in just I follow boxing. I'm a fan of boxing, and I've knew of him. Steve back at welterweight. I knew before Jesse Vargas. And,
yeah.
You know, just really. I didn't ever think I'd come across him in a fight.
Well, that was Liam Beefy Smith. He'll challenge Sadam Ali on May the 12th for the WBO World Super Welterweight title live on BoxNation. The man who'll be putting together the game plan to dethrone Ali is, of course, the one and only Joe Gallagher. Despite Gallagher having one of the busiest schedules in world boxing, Steve Lillis managed to grab a word.
First of all, Joe, you seem as busy as ever in that gym. We're speaking to you. You're just about to start a week of training again.
Yeah, it's a busy time. We've got two fights this weekend and then Crawler the weekend after. And like I say, a busy time coming up. Obviously, Paul Butler, then Liam Smith, world title, Callum Smith. So, listen, it's good. There's a good atmosphere in the gym. And today's Monday and start of another busy week. And of course, I want to ask you about Liam Smith, Sadam Ali. So tell us about your take on that fight for Liam. Yeah, no, it's a very good fight. I know a lot of people will say Sadam Ali beat Miguel Cotto. Some will question Cotto was finished or he wasn't, but I've heard good reports about Sadam Ali before that fight. He'd been sparring the likes of Curtis Stevens in America, being told he's got quite fast hands on the inside, a heavy hitter, he can punch, and that showed today when he beat Miguel Cotto, and he's no easy task. He's a good world champion, a proud world champion, and he can do a bit of everything, so it's a tough fight for Liam Smith. But Liam, he's got no qualms again about going to America, has he? No, Liam will go wherever there's a fight. You know, Liam will fight anywhere, won't he? So, no, he's got no qualms over going there to him, and like I say, it's a huge opportunity for him to become a two-time world champion. And to do it on the road. Does it worry you, judges overseas? Not necessarily. My main concern is the anti-doping. I really need Sadam Ali, not suggesting any way that he's using performance-enhancing drugs at all and anything else, but I really do, and I've been advised to make sure that he does do the test for the anti-doping, and that's what the one key thing I have for this fight, that he undergoes strict performance-enhancing drug tests, and that's one thing that concerns me a little bit. So that's not to say that he's been on it before, suggested before, but that's something, the only thing that worries me sometimes when you're going over there to America. Like I say, he's a welterweight, he's come up to light middleweight, he's beat Miguel Cotto. So just little things, alarm bells like that start thinking, go on in your head. So that's my main concern, is just to make sure that everything's done and tests are done, and to make sure he doesn't eat no Mexican meat. how much, drugs are a big problem in sport worldwide. You see it in cycling, it's getting huge publicity, the cycling problems. How big a problem do you think it is in boxing, Joe, at home and abroad? See, it's a problem, but the thing is, I don't know no one who's on it, so that's a start. And I think in this country, like I say, that there's people being caught in the past, they've been suspended, they've been banned, and then they've been allowed to fight again. I don't think that should be a case. I think as soon as you're caught, I know there's the odd cases where they bought it over a supermarket, but the British Boxing Board have controlled the supply websites where you can go on to check the product you're about to take to see whether it is a banned substance. So no matter whatever excuse there is an answer that the British Boxing Board of Control put there before it to say, well, listen, if you weren't sure, you could have tapped it in. Everyone has a phone these days. Everyone has a Google, and it's easy to put into that. So I'm not a buyer of that, really. But I do feel it is a problem. And like you say, you've just seen it with Lewis Neri recently. Stephen Smith when he fought Francisco Vargas. This meat problem seems to be a bigger problem all the time. But I don't know how strict other commissions are all over the world. All I know is what it is like over here in the UK. And that's why I say Liam Smith fight. I hope over there in New York or whatever state that it's in, is that there is a stringent as they are here. And I say we want VADA, WADA, whoever to do proper, regular and often. And I think there should be more tests, unannounced tests like there is at the moment, all the time. And I think it should go from like 90 days out instead of 45 days. So that's my take on it, Steve.
A couple other questions before we let you go, Joe. I know you live, breathe boxing. Just want to get your verdict on a couple of fights, how you see them going. Carl Frampton against Nonito Donaire.
Good fight. All depends really what Nonito Donaire's got left, really. Nonito Donaire, big name, could be hugely motivated for this. Up at featherweight, I think the thing with Carl and Nonito, they're both kids from lower weight divisions that are both coming through together. So Carl's not necessarily fighting a career featherweight, and Nonito's not fighting a career Carl Frampton at featherweight. So I think it's a good fight for both of them. But I just do feel Carl Frampton, with the change of trainers and everything else, I think he's got a bounce in his step again, and they'll be out to impress and put a few things right that went wrong last time in his fight. Didn't go as good as what they wanted. He got the win, but didn't impress, and I'm sure he'll be wanting to impress. So yeah, expect Carl Frampton to be too sharp, too hard a hitter, and to stop Donaire by round 8-9.
And Lee Selby, when he faces Josh Warrington.
Lee Selby, I just think Lee Selby's a very good fighter. Known for a few hand problems in the past, but not heard any of late. Josh Warrington, a kid that's improved over the time, and every time he stepped up, everyone's always said, "Oh, British level, that's his level." Then European level, that's his level. And fair play to him, he keeps pushing the boundaries and pushing the perimeter back up and up. So you can't write Josh Warrington off, and especially when he's got that crowd behind him. And sometimes it can be the right fight at the right time, but you just can't look past Lee Selby winning that fight. I just think Lee Selby, being on the road, boxed all over. And for a world champion who's reigned as long as he has, and to still have the motivation, the dedication, takes himself off sparring in America and everything, that's all you need. And I think this is the real big first juicy world title fight Lee Selby's had. So I just feel a motivated on form Lee Selby, just box and he'll win that on points.
And the last prediction, will Liam Smith become a two-time world champion this year?
Listen, we all hope and pray it does. It's a big job. Sadam Ali, like you say, is a good fighter. Liam Smith now is in camp. We're training towards it. We've been looking around all over the weekend for sparring partners to fly in from America and Europe. So yeah, listen, with a little bit of luck on our side and a good training camp, I see no reason. And what a fantastic achievement that'll be to be a two-time world champion. If they're thinking right, I think Liam Smith will be only the first Liverpool fighter ever in history to win a world title on the road. I'm sure that's a statistic I've heard before. So he's got huge motivation for this, and it'll be great to see Liam Smith crowned. And he's had to work to get this opportunity this time with two great fights over Liam Williams to get that mandatory position. And Frank's gone and delivered that now. So everyone's done the job. It's just Liam Smith now to do his job now and get knuckled down and get himself in the best shape that he can be for May the 12th.
Well, Steve, Beefy wants his belt back. I think he can get it. Discuss.
Oh, it's a winnable fight. It's not an easy fight. It's not one where you'll say he's going over there and he's an overwhelming favourite. But he'll be going to America with a lot more chance than many Britons have had over the years, and certainly a lot more chance than people gave him when he fought Canelo Alvarez in front of 50,000 fans in Dallas or in Arlington, Texas, just outside Dallas. Look, Sadam Ali's decent, but there's a lot in Liam's favour. He's naturally bigger, more experienced at the weight, and it's sort of, whereas it's not last chance saloon for Liam. He's still only, I think he's not 30 until July.
28, 29.
He's been a pro for nearly 10 years, I think, in October. It's just, if it did go wrong, he could, be down the queue for another 2-3 years. So it's not quite, last chance stakes, but it's the fight that will, if he wins this, it opens up the possibilities for so many big fights for him out there at the division. Obviously, Canelo's moved on. That rematch won't happen. He's weight 11 stone, and you look at the WBC champion Jamel Charlo, that would appeal to him. Obviously, you've got IBF, Jarrett Hurd, WBA, Ruslandy Lara, but you look more at home. You'd have something Kell Brook or Amir Khan haven't got right now.
Said. Yeah, exactly what he said. Yeah, as you said there, the actual champions are pretty elite fighters.
They're very good fighters. I mean, Charlo is, if there's a glamour one out of them, it's the Charlo twin, Jamel. Lara. Who needs Lara?
But he's unified with
Jarrett Hurd is pretty unfashionable. So his big fight would be Charlo or Brook against Khan.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's got something they would want, a world title. Great opportunity for him. As Joe Gallagher said to me, he won't be worried going to America. One thing he did in that week he was in America before the Canelo fight, how well he handled everything out there. And this, in comparison, is a much smaller show. It's seeing one of them casinos about 4 hours drive from New York City.
Yeah.
I think it's on one of them casinos that Native Americans own.
Okay.
In that area of America, there's quite a few of them. Lennox Lewis fought along in Connecticut there against Zelko Mavrovich. They're quite unique casino, shall we say. So, he's not going to be against a hostile crowd if he was in New York City, in Brooklyn, where Sadam Ali comes from. And, hey, it's a very winnable fight, and he wasn't worried about going over there, and understandable. If it went to purse bids, it would have been very hard for Frank to win it and give him a good purse.
Yeah. No, I reckon that that Brook fight is potentially there, and the reason I think that could happen, say Smith wins this fight, he's got the belt, I think Smith-Brook will happen because Brook-Khan won't happen. I think so long as Khan has other options, he won't fight Kell Brook. And then Brook scrambling around, there's no Amir Khan, let me try and go and get a world title. Maybe not against Jarrett Hurd, maybe not against Ruslandy Lara, maybe not against Jamel Charlo.
Yeah, Brook has mentioned Charlo, but Liam Smith is the one that would appeal to people. But it's interesting, you don't think Brook and Khan are fight. Very interesting.
Well, I think so long as they've got other options.
Title fight, they might have to fight each other.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, we've been wanting it for years and years. Now, what about Joe Gallagher there? I mean, he was really pushing, respectfully, but really pushing on this anti-doping angle. He's not throwing any accusations out there. He's just saying he wants it to be a level playing field.
He said he doesn't know any boxers who are on, who are on performance enhancing. He's just saying, he just wants to test him right, like any trainer should shout for his fighter, because whether people like it or not, they can bury their head in the sands. Performance enhancing drugs are a major problem in many sports, all sports at some level, and boxing's no exception. It's there. We can't, hide away from it.
One thing that Liam Smith has been mentioning across a few interviews, he thinks that the Sadam Ali fight is a tougher fight for him than the Miguel Cotto fight. What do you reckon?
Oh, well, if you look how Miguel Cotto looked against Sadam Ali, he was years and years past his best. It was quite sad, especially for someone like me who...
big fan, aren't you?
Big fan of Evander Holyfield, Miguel Cotto. They're my favourite fighters. And like Evander, it's sad to see him go on too long as well. And what was the saddest thing of that night was the last 2 rounds. Cotto was just trying to survive to get through the 12 rounds against Sadam Ali. So the Cotto of now, it's a far tougher fight, for sure. Might not have the same kudos beating a Sadam Ali than beating the Miguel Cotto, but Sadam, if he was fighting the Miguel Cotto who fought Sadam Ali, you'd fancy Liam Smith to even stop him, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a fight coming up.
And that's no slight on Miguel Cotto, who's one of the greats.
Yeah, you had to get some more Cotto love in there. I'm a big Cotto fan as well. The you know, that comeback, the rematch against Margarito, where he and he's sort of staring at the crowd and he's righted that wrong. That was nice, wasn't it? A nice moment.
And he was annoyed when he couldn't finish to bash him up even more as well.
Well, Smith against Sadam Ali, that's Liam Smith, will be live on BoxNation on May the 12th. Beefy wants his old belt back, and good luck to Liam Smith. Hopefully he can bring that back to the UK for some big fights over here. Now, last week I took a trip down to see WBA International Super Lightweight Champion Ohara Davies in training as he prepared for his first fight under Frank Warren's promotional banner. Now, OD was in fine form and will be getting some of those training videos out online in the coming weeks. I managed to grab a word with the man they call Two Tanks. And Steve, just to interrupt my own intro there, do you know what Two Tanks means?
I'd imagine it's a reference to Ohara's strength.
It's not.
That would be my guess, because there's one thing, there's faults that Ohara's got in his game, but one thing he's got the strength of someone 2 divisions higher. So when I saw the Two Tanks name for the first time last week, I don't know whether you've given him that nickname or
it's not one of mine.
You're not guilty on this one, so I know you have dished out a few nicknames. I assumed it was because he's got that brute-like strength.
Yeah.
So tell me.
No, I thought it was something like that. I thought it was something to do with, big arms or something like that. It's actually a second tank of stamina. So it's like an extra reserve of stamina. Because the tank doesn't empty. The first tank may empty. He's got a second one in reserve. He's got 2 tanks. So it's about stamina and energy. How exciting is that? Well,
I think I'll prefer to refer it to his strength as the 2 tanks. That's what it's going to be for me.
Well, I managed to grab a word with the man they call 2 Tanks, and I had to ask him about British champion Jack Catterall's tweet suggesting he would beat the dog poo out of him.
Catterall said that because I feel like he's a bit jealous. Catterall hasn't got a following. No one knows his name. He's a British champion that's basically not even relevant. He's not relevant. Who knows him? And Catterall's the kind of person he needs me to boost his profile, and that's why I didn't even respond, because I know that if I respond, I'll be helping him. I can't gain anything from him because he hasn't even got a name. So if he wants to get knocked out and if Frank wants him to get knocked out, then Frank will put me in with him. But we'll see what the future holds.
Do you think Frank will put him in with you? I mean, he's got the British title. Surely, is the British title on your agenda?
No, it's not really on my agenda. I think I'm going to go into world level now. I've got the WBA International, gets me in the world rankings, and the British title has never really been something that I've really been interested in. Many have, just me personally. I just ready to get onto world level. If I do fight Jack, it won't be because I want the British title so much. It'll just be because he's been talking too much, and Frank wants him to get knocked out.
What about Terry Flanagan? Because that's a man who's fighting on the same show as you and could pick up a world title that night. Is he on your radar?
Terry Flanagan, I've never actually seen him fight. I've never seen him fight. I've never conversed with him. He hasn't said anything about me. I haven't said anything about him. I just wish him good luck in his fight, and if he does win the fight, then it'd be a fight that'd be easy to make because we both signed to Frank, so that'll be a fight that'll be fairly easy to make. But he's never really mentioned my name, and so I'm just gonna give him that same respect.
Now let's talk about life as Ohara Davies now. Obviously the Sims thing is behind you. You're now with MTK. What's life been like as an MTK fighter?
So much better with MTK. I feel like they're giving me the attention that I never got when I was under Sims. It's even in that gym alone, they had 8 fighters in the gym. And they had 8 fighters and they had 1 coach. How can 1 coach give 8 fighters the same attention? He couldn't. So when it was time to fight, he wouldn't really be analysing my opponent, because he might have Ricky Burns on the same bill, Conor Benn on the same bill, Ted Cheeseman on the same bill. I never got that special attention that I feel like I should have got. I feel like if I did get that attention, I wouldn't have lost the fight that I've lost. But especially, and also management-wise, they was garbage. Management-wise, they was garbage. They didn't really get me any deals, any sponsors. So yeah, I'm just glad that now I'm in a really good place.
I noticed in your first initial interviews when you moved to MTK and you left the Sims, you were kind of diplomatic, somewhat. Like you were just saying maybe they didn't steer me, they didn't advise me, and if they'd have done so better, maybe stuff wouldn't have happened. However, in the last few days, I've seen you tweet "F my old team." So what's changed?
You know, just been looking at how it went down, and I've been thinking about how it went down, and sometimes I do get really angry, and I got really angry when I sent that certain tweet up, because the thing about me is that I'm not trying to be a people's person. I'm not trying to be loved. I'm just trying to be me. When I was with Sims, they had me put on a mask and be hated purposely. They had me go out of my way to try and be hated, to try and stir up controversy rather than me being myself. But now I'm just literally being myself, and if I feel some kind of way, then I'm gonna say that I feel some kind of way. And that's the difference now. And when I was thinking about them, I think in the way that I got treated there, and I got hung out to dry. I got hung out to dry, and they begged me back. Everyone begged me back, and so everyone begged me back, and then they're acting like acting as if I've been dropped. I haven't been dropped. I'm the one that left the Sims, and it's not like I got dropped and then I came over to Frank. I had an offer from Eddie Hearn, and I had an offer from Frank, and I said to myself, you know what, I want to join Frank. If I was to stay with Matchroom, I would have been fighting on the Dillian White show, and that's what people don't know. So then they want to go online and say, and act like I've been suspended, I've been banned, I've been dropped, when in reality I've left everyone, and they don't want to go online and public say, we wanted OD back, we asked him back, we sent him texts to come back, we phoned him and asked him to come back. So they don't want to say that. But to be honest, it's not like Frank's got Eddie's leftovers. No, this one left Eddie and came to Frank, because I feel like in BT Sport I get treated a lot better. And that's why when I thought about that really got me a bit annoyed, as it would anyone.
And obviously that deal has ensured that you get to meet me today, so I'd imagine that's a huge plus.
Exactly. I've got to get used to. I feel like I have to get used to the whole BoxNation team, BT Sports team. Whereas before, I was used to this team at Sky Sports, going over to Sky Sports and meeting their team. So, but I feel like the people at BT Sport are a lot better than the people at Sky.
Well said, Ohara Davies. Now the other thing, you put something up on Instagram the other day. It was in light of Jamie Carragher spitting and how certain fighters haven't got on his case.
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua commented on that. Did you see that? And he said like, "Oh yeah, I hear you, bro."
Yeah, I saw that comment that he made. It's not really about taking sides, and I don't believe AJ takes any sides. He just saw what was right and what was wrong, and whether some people see what's right and what's wrong and they choose to keep their mouth shut, he just chose to write a comment on a picture saying, "Yeah, I believe that you're on the right." So, it's a good thing of him just to stand up for what he believes in. What I said was the truth.
Are you still mates with Arj and the guys from Towie, or has that kind of gone now?
No, I'm still mates with Arj. To be honest, out of all the guys from that show, Arj was the first one that I met. Arj is the only one that I'll class as my real mate, because Arj is the one that I knew from the start. So, me and Arj are still really tight. We're still as tight as we've always been. And that's something that hasn't changed. With all the other lot, I've just chosen to keep myself out of that circle, just so I can stay in the gym, focus on my boxing, rather than being out and about in clubs like I was last year. Last year, it was all about fame, this person and that person going out to clubs and being a superstar. Now it's just about keeping my head down, keeping focus. I don't really see anyone anymore. I don't really see Arj as much, but we still talk on the phone and stuff. But, we're still mates, and I feel like me being around them or me seeing them doesn't say how strong the friendship is. So he's on his grind, I'm happy for him. He was out in Spain with me the other day, and I'm on my grind and he's happy for me.
So if there was a film made about your life, right, your kind of biography, which actor in the world, whoever you want, Denzel Washington, etc., who would get to play the role of Ohara Davies?
I think I'd want to play that role.
Yeah.
I was watching 50 Cent. He played his own role in Get Rich or Die Trying.
Fair.
So something that I've been thinking about, but as the years are going on and I'm getting older, time's running out. I've still got to do it while I've got this young look still.
And final one, I'm just going to throw out some names, and I want you to say the first word that comes to mind. And this is the BoxNation podcast. It is PG, so please keep it clean. Terry Flanagan.
Nothing.
Jack Catterall.
Poor.
Tony Bellew.
4.
Anthony Joshua.
Champ.
Tyson Fury.
Champ.
Daniel Dubois.
Future.
Anthony Yard.
Present.
Frank Warren.
Legendary.
Terence Crawford.
Best.
Billy Joe Saunders.
Focused.
Finally, are you familiar with the American referee Steve Willis?
Steve Willis. Is he the guy that refereed Floyd when he fought McGregor?
No, he's the one that makes all the funny faces.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, I know who he is.
So I've been trying week in, week out to get him onto the BoxNation podcast because we've got Steve Lillis, right?
Yeah.
So I want to have Steve Lillis interviewing Steve Willis just because of the rhyme and, you know, it'd be great to hear. I'm struggling. I don't know how to get hold of him. I've messaged him on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Do you have any advice on how I can get there?
Advice on how you can get there? I have no idea. Tweet him, spam him over Twitter, spam his pictures on Instagram, inbox him, get all the fighters to inbox him. I'm sure he'll see one of our messages.
Now, we're just going to try something here. There's a lot of heat coming off Ohara Davies in that interview, and he wasn't very nice about British champion Jack Catterall. Now, Jack Catterall just heard that interview, so let's see what he thinks. Jack, you've just heard that interview, and it sounded like you were snoring as I was playing that interview to you. Was that right?
Yeah, listen, Ohara does enough talking for the both of us. It's boring, really. He said I need his profile and whatnot. That's cool, and let him think whatever he wants to think. But like I said, I've got the British title, I've got the WBO Intercontinental title, and I do my talking in the ring. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. Really ain't interested in him. He can talk about his profile. He's only got a profile because he disrespects people, and that's not how I conduct myself. So I know, speaking to people in the boxing world, what people think of him. Like I said, I don't pay too much mind to Ohara Davies or any of the fighters. I wish everybody well, but I expect down the line we will meet, and again, I'll do my talking in the ring.
And when do you want that fight, Jack?
It's not like I want the fight. Naturally, I think the fight will happen. But like I said, I don't really focus too much on that. I live in the gym, working, training hard, preparing for. I've got 2 fights scheduled, so my mindset's focused on them. Let's see how he progresses in his next fight, and we'll go from there.
Jack, when you go around gyms and when you go into the gym with all the lads every day and you speak to your fans and stuff, does anyone ever say to you, we want to see you shut Ohara Davies up? Do you get that sort of talk a lot?
Yeah, they say things worse than that, but again, we don't know whether it's an act or he's just playing the dick. It doesn't matter to me. People don't tend to like him. That's the general feeling. I've never met him personally, so I've not got that much of an opinion of him, really. But yeah, that aside, though, I would like to get in and do the damage.
If he wasn't a rival of yours and you was a fan who watched boxing on TV, what would your opinion be of him as a fighter?
I've not really watched too much of him. I think I've seen one of his fights. I think 2 of his fights, actually. And it didn't look brilliant. He does some things all right, but yeah, I'd fancy that fight.
And how are you settling in the gym up there with everybody?
Oh, it's been brilliant, Steve. I've been there a couple of weeks now. Great atmosphere. I'm enjoying myself more than anything. Learning every day. Really good energy around me at the moment, so can only be grateful for that.
And you got a little outing next week on the BoxNation show in Preston.
Yeah, I'm fighting March the 31st at the Preston Guildhall. Got a 6-round fight. This will be to keep me busy, settling with the new team, and then straight into May the 19th, Ellen Road.
Anything you want to add, Jack? I mean, any closing message? Obviously, Ohara doesn't really think very highly of you, so and it sounds like you don't think particularly highly of him. So, any kind of closing thoughts?
It's not that I don't think highly of him. It's just no relevance to my life. And Ohara Davies, you are a bum.
Thanks, Jack. Well, Steve, we heard from OD. We've now heard from JC. I want to see it.
Look, it's inevitable that they are going to meet. I wouldn't be surprised if it was sooner rather than later. It's a fight that's, you know, getting quite warm now. You know, there's a lot of junior welterweights around who Frank Warren's got in his stable, and you know, you got Terry Flanagan's going to fight Maurice Hooker at some stage pretty soon for the vacant WBO world title. The natural would be for Jack and Ohara to meet, and perhaps the winner would fight Terry or Hooker, whoever wins that fight. And of course, don't forget, there's people behind that like Josh Lever.
Of course.
you know, and also Glenn Foot's also in the. No, he's not one of Frank Warren's fighters. I think Jack's been ordered to defend his British title against him.
Is that right? Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, Glenn Foot gave Josh Leather a hell of a fight up in Newcastle on that Smith-Williams show, wasn't it? So, yeah, I'm sure he's within the picture, picked up a win the other weekend as well. So, yeah, a glittering and exciting division, and hopefully we see OD v JC before too long. Now, while I was in London spending a few hours with Ohara Davies, my esteemed colleague, the man who covers more miles than Parcel Force, Steve Lillis, was with Josh Warrington. Here's what the Leeds Warrior had to say ahead of his May 19th IBF World Title clash with Lee Selby.
You're fighting Lee Selby, you're not going to feel great towards him, but if you was a fan and you was completely neutral, what would your opinion of him be as a boxer?
You say like I've got bad feelings and bad words against him. That's not to do with his boxing. I've always said he's a very good fighter. It takes a good fighter to win a world title. You know, you don't get gifted these things, and he's gone through the levels. You know, he's won the British, European, and gone on to win a world title, and he's had successful defences of it. What I do get upset about is, you know, stuff what he says off the camera and the way he goes about his behaviour. He's a very good fighter, but all I'm saying is I think I can beat him, and I think I can beat him. I think I've had to beat him for a long time. May 19th we'll find out, but I strongly believe that. You know, I've got the beating of him. You know, he's slick. He looks well when he's in ring, but he's not unbeatable. He's not unbeatable.
What's your reaction when people say you're only getting this opportunity because you sell thousands of tickets?
What I'd say to that is, you know, yeah, I've had the opportunities, but them ticket buyers weren't there at the start of my career, and I had to break through on my own. I had 16 fights away from home, I won English title away from home, I won Commonwealth title away from home, big underdog, and yeah, I have all them people behind me, but I've still got to get in the ring and do the business. I do feel like when I'm in there that they're with me, but ultimately, you know, there's many critics who say I want to win a British, I want to win a European, I want to be like say Joe Brunk or Isashi Amagasa, but I've gone on and done it. So you're always going to get critics. You know, if I win when I'm winning this world title, I'll have people turn around and say I will. He won't defend it, or he won't go on and unify it, or like that. But I'll just keep on proving them wrong.
Now, Steve, you spent a couple of days with Josh, didn't you, filming the fighter by trade coming up on BoxNation? Yeah, we had 2 days with Josh last week. Myself and Andy Cook, our cameraman, fantastic couple of days. Went to his home and to the gym, and you know, just literally followed him for 2 days. And he is really he gets fired up anyway, Josh. And he's almost like someone who's ready to be let off a spring now. It was almost, I said to him, could you, overtrain for this? He's already, last week when I was with him, he was down to about 9-12 already. Yeah. He's in fantastic shape already. He's training so hard, and the confidence is just booming out of him. And it's quite remarkable because his wife just gave birth to twins about a month ago. So as well as that, he's got two 28-day-old twins when we were there to look after. A lot going on in the life. A lot going on in his life. Very, very busy man. He's one of those guys who's never in the same place for more than 3 or 4 minutes. What's interesting with Josh is that well, you get a lot of boxers who will do their run either early morning or late at night to do their training in the afternoon. He does his run mid-morning and trains in the evening near the time when he's fighting. Oh, okay. So getting his body ready to peak. Yeah, that's what he's always done. Yeah. His dad, there's Sean O'Hagan. Very good, happy camp it was there last week. It seems you asked that question as we heard in that clip there about does he feel he doesn't get the credit that maybe he deserves because people poke fun. He's only getting to where he is because of his fan base. Is that's the kind of stick that people use to beat Josh Warrington with, and I think he's always got to have that. He's always got to be on the defensive about that. And he's won English, British, and Commonwealth titles. Surely that should be enough to fend people off, but they keep coming at him with it. It is. I don't think he feels he has to defend himself. He is. Well, he is quite a pessimist about it all. He did say to me that he does
take the attitude that, you know, any publicity's good publicity. Like he played a guitar for us and got slaughtered for that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, what he did say was that when people start criticising his family is what gets him. Like he was reluctant for his baby twins to be filmed on camera. You know, so he didn't want, because if he saw something said about them, he would get angry. His wife was telling me she gets more upset than him, and she was particularly upset before their wedding when somebody said to her, got hold of, you know, found her on social media and said, I hope your husband to be has his jaw broken before your wedding. I mean, you know.
Wow.
But he takes it all in his stride, and he takes the attitude that any publicity is good publicity. He's very PR conscious, very clued up on that side of things. I think you must probably know as well.
Yeah, no, he's
I'm not sure he'll be if you let him loose on the BoxNation Instagram account. I don't think he'll be giving it the Billy Joe Saunders treatment. And when is Billy Joe back in charge of the Instagram?
We're in talks, is what I'll say. I'll have
I
to lay down a few
I want him back in charge of it for a day.
Well, I'll lay down a few ground rules, make sure there's no naughty messages going on.
If you lay down ground rules to Billy Joe Saunders, the opposite is going to happen, Dev.
Yeah, very true. Maybe I should just say, here's the password.
But yeah, Josh I like Josh a lot. I mean, it's funny, we've gone and done Fighter by Trays on Josh Warrington, Lee Selby, Carl Frampton, and I said this to Josh last week. They're going to have a little round robin, so to speak, between them, or the winner of Josh and Selby will almost certainly fight Carl Frampton if he beats Nonito Donaire on April 21. And we made these 3 films, and all 3 of them are fantastic fellas, and I'm not just saying that because, you know, they've opened up their doors for us to come in.
Yeah.
But they all 3 have got completely different personalities, but all terrific fellas.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you catch the face-to-face feature now? It's released in its entirety. A little plug there. It's on the BoxNation YouTube page and Twitter and Facebook as well. It's like a 12-minute feature of verbal hooks and jabs and maybe low blows.
It's good, and I noticed Josh got a little bit of stick over that, but I think I've seen it with Josh before. Before many of his opponents, not just Lee Selby. Obviously, there's a lot more needle here because there's a world title at stake, and it's a rivalry that's been brewing for 3 years since they were both in the Matchroom stable. But Josh, he always gets in an opponent's face, and I think that's part of his revving himself up. But the Josh you see sometimes when he goes confrontational with an opponent, even if that opponent said nothing, isn't the real Josh Warrington. That is the Josh who isn't selling tickets. That's how he psychs himself up, in my opinion.
He's in fight mode. He is in fight mode. It's an entertaining watch, that. Anything you want to add there on Josh, Steve?
No, I just can't wait for the fight. I'm glad I finally got to see the promo, because the day it was being made, and I say this every week on it, you know what's coming. You threw me out the room. You told me I couldn't watch.
It's clearly...
You helped us clear our camera equipment out, Eva, so you could get in there with your pals and take film. So I had to watch it because I didn't know what was happening till a week ago.
A clearly scarred Steve Lillis pushing...
Mortally wounded.
Mortally wounded. Well, that is on the BoxNation YouTube page. Check it out. It's 12 minutes of great fun. And Selby versus Warrington is at Ellen Road on May the 19th. There are still some tickets left at leedsunited.com. And if you just want to watch it at home, it will be live on BoxNation. Zelfa Barrett, the Brown Flash, one of the most highly touted and most talked about prospects in British boxing. This time last month he was 19-0, undefeated, all the momentum in the world. He then stepped in the ring with the very tough and experienced Ronnie Clark and suffered his first career loss. Young Barrett showed plenty of heart to overcome and fight back from a heavy 5th round knockdown, but ultimately dropped a majority decision to the rugged Scotsman. He had his first day back in the gym last week since the loss to Clark, so I gave him a call, and the first thing I asked him was, how did it go?
It just felt good. It felt good to be back. It felt like more hungrier. Like I just want to keep learning. I just feel like I'm just looking at my trainers and like, tell me more.
So are you doing anything different? Like, have you gone in? I know you mentioned you're hungrier, but does that mean that you're actually changing anything in the gym, or is everything still the same, just with a bit more hunger?
Yeah, everything's just the same, just a bit more hunger, just a bit more like, I need it more. You know what I mean?
And what would you say life has been like for you since that? So we're coming up to been nearly a month now since that fight, and obviously there was people were expecting you to win. There was a lot of hype behind you, still a lot of hype behind you, but it was an upset. So what's life been like for Zelfa Barrett since the loss to Warrington?
I think, to be fair, I've learned who my friends are, who my real people. My loved ones are my loved ones. Like, they're there no matter what, you know what I mean? And it makes you realise who's actually there for you. And you know what, to be fair, I've had loads of people. I've shown everyone that I'm not saying I'm pretty, but I'm not just a pretty fighter. I can fight, I've got heart, and I've shown everyone that I'm not a full article. Don't get me wrong, I got beat, but I got loads of positives from that defeat. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I've got a good chin. I can go 12 rounds. Credit to Ronnie Clark, good fighter. He won. He beat me that day, and credit to him. And I learned a lot, and I'd like to thank him from what I've learned from.
Yeah, and I think that's come across quite well. I know you did an interview with IFL TV afterwards as well, and you just kept giving Ronnie Clark credit, and I think that come across really well. And
of course, because he beat me, and what I sound like a sore loser. I've ticked a few boxes where other people think, oh, he's just a pretty fighter, or can you do this, can you do that? I've got heart, and I've got a good chin. You know what I mean? I got up, and I won the rounds. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of fighters get hit like that, and then that split second they think, do I really want this? Is boxing for me? I've got pull me out. None of them things didn't even cross my mind. To be fair, I'm more embarrassed. You know what I mean? And my mind's so strong. Obviously, I got hit. My body was reacted, but mine was strong.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the hell am I doing here? I was embarrassed. If you watch the fight, I got up straight away and looked, and I was like, yeah, man. And I looked up Ron and said, okay. I looked up the corner. They were telling me I should have took a little 8 count. But in them situations, I was embarrassed, you know. So I'm saying I've learnt a lot. I know to take the 8 count. And like I said, I've shown too much heart. Where my boxing ability and my skill is, I believe in it, and I didn't use it.
So what do you want to do now? Is it a case of you want to jump straight back in with the Shark?
Of course, most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely. I need to right a wrong right. And no disrespect to Ronnie, he's a good fighter. It's going to be a good fight, man. I'd like to take it straight away because I won't want another fighter to beat him.
So what would you do differently then? You mentioned how it's a case of you could have boxed more. Is it just that? Keep him at range kind of thing?
Just a bit of both. Just a few things would be different. And I'm not taking nothing away from Ronnie Clark. Ronnie Clark was a great Ronnie Clark. He was a better man that day.
You got a nice message from Leon Woodstock on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that. He was very supportive, saying you're still a king. What do you make of that?
He didn't have to do that. And like I said, there's no rivalry between me and Leon. He's a proper nice guy. And we're both so similar. You know what I mean? We're both all kind of the same background. We're both similar people. What
would you say the best advice you've been given, from either Pat or from your camp? I think Ricky Hatton was around you as well after the fight, wasn't he? And obviously he's had high profile losses on the biggest stage, so he knows. What did he say anything to you?
Just to keep your head up. You're going to be a world champion. This is just a learning curve. He just told me you got all the boxing ability in the world, and now you're showing you've got heart, so it's time to mix that up. As I said, my uncle Pat just gave me a hug and said, listen, I've been beat before, and then when you got beat, you didn't get beat after that again. 5 years down the line, so they fought for a world title. And he said, you learn a lot. You learn from this loss, especially me, because he knows me as a person. He knows how to make me tick, so he knows me in and out. So he just told me, and he said, I even shown him that I've got heart. It's something getting punched and getting put down is something not many fighters you learn. You only find out in a fight, because sometimes you don't find out in sparring. It's like being in a car. You can look good in the outside, but your engine might be rubbish. One
final thing I'm going to ask you. Now, are you familiar with the American referee Steve Willis? The one who makes all the faces, yeah?
Yeah.
So, I've been trying week after week to get him on the BoxNation podcast and get Steve Willis to interview him, just because it rhymes. Imagine that, Steve Willis doing Steve Willis. That would be great. But, mate, he's ignoring me on Facebook, my messages on there. He's ignored my Instagram message. He's not hitting me back on LinkedIn. I left a message for him on his YouTube video, because he's got YouTube videos up there, and he's not come back to me. What should I do?
I'd just try and I'd get Mr. Warren to get hold of him.
Yeah, go through Frank.
Mr. Warren is the man, so you go for the golf and get the golf to get him, because he's Mr. Warren, man. he's the man in it, and he doesn't break promises, and he's well respected.
That's good advice. So you think if the request comes from Frank Warren himself, I've got a better chance of getting Steve Willis to speak to Steve Willis?
I can guarantee you.
Wow. All right, we'll give that a go. Anything you want to add, Zelfa?
So I say thank you to you, to all the people, and I will be back. And that's not with a cocky, arrogant, it's cool, calm and collective, because we all know I will be back. And that's it. And I'd like to thank God. Without God, this wouldn't be possible.
Well, Steve, good to hear his advice there on Steve Willis, firstly, and I'll have an update for you on that at the end of the show. But talk to me about Zelfa. You were so shocked after that defeat.
Oh, I'm still in the state of shock. But no, all credit to Ronnie. Look, Ronnie deserved the win that night, to win that vacant IBF International or East and Western strap.
East-West,
I just think Zelfa's got to go straight back in there against Ronnie. He's no good having, he's had 20 fights now. Maybe have one 6-rounder beforehand, and then straight back in there with Ronnie and see if he can right that wrong.
He wants to.
Of course he does. He's a fighting man, and he'll be hurting inside. I mean, I've watched the fight a couple of times, and what's so telling, right up until that decision was announced, he still believed he was going to get it, and the look of shock on that corner and himself when it went against them, is an everlasting memory of that night at York Hall.
His world came crashing down somewhat.
But look, Ronnie was fantastic on the night, but I'm still sold on Zelfa Barrett.
Me too.
And I think if he gets it right, he can beat Ronnie Clark, and that's not having anything against Ronnie. Perhaps we're doing Ronnie a bit of a harsh deal, and in the next couple of weeks, if they are going to have a rematch, maybe I should try and get Ronnie on the podcast to give us his voice.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Just don't bring him in the studio with all that thong stuff that he had going on at the weigh-in. But no excuses at all from Zelfa. He's there's often when fighters suffer their first loss, you hear, I wasn't getting the right sparring, or I was tight at the weight, and all of these kind of things. There's plenty of opportunities for him to make excuses. He's not. Credit to Clark, and I love seeing that from Zelfa Barrett. Yeah,
no excuses at all, and they knew what Ronnie was going to do when I went to interview him before the fight. What he said Ronnie was going to do that night, he did. No excuses. He's just got to get back on the horse and show he's one of the many fighters who have a loss before they go on and have fantastic boxing careers.
That's not nice stuff. Ricky Hatton, of course, was saying to him as well. So Ricky Hatton was there that night with Nathan Gorman. I saw them backstage. Hatton kind of had his arm around Zelfa, and then we got a little insight from Zelfa there as to what Hatton said. He's still going to become a world champion, etc. And having people like that around you telling you that, it's only a good thing, right?
Yeah. You know what? I go back to what you said. People telling you're a world champion. I relayed the story on the podcast, I think last week or the week before, that Carl Frampton had brought him up in conversation. When I was with Josh Warrington last week, he brought up the name Zelfa Barrett. How he couldn't believe that he lost to Ronnie Clark, how he'd sparred with him, how this kid was a world champion in the making. So it's not just us. People are going to might be thinking, oh, well, he fights on BoxNation, you're going to be pushing your own fighters. But these are good fighters, Carl Frampton, Josh Warrington, men who know boxing, fighting at the highest level, are banging the drum for this kid, saying how good he really is still.
Yeah, and if they're banging drums, well, I'm going to turn around and look at where that drum beat is coming from, and I'm going to listen. And I was dancing to that drum beat, Steve Lewis. I was dancing, and I'm going to hear it again when Zelfa Barrett jumps back in the ring with Ronnie Clark, and hopefully we see that very soon. Well, last Saturday was St Patrick's Day, and just like he did the year before, Mick Conlan put on a show at Madison Square Garden in New York. The Irish featherweight turned the garden green and improved to 6-0 with 5 knockouts, destroying Hungarian David Berner in front of his adoring fans. Here's what he had to say to Bernardo Osuna after the win.
6 wins, 5 of them by way of knockout. What did tonight's win mean to you, Mick?
It meant a lot to me. I wanted to come in here and put on a great performance, a better performance than last year, which, I felt I did.
Now, this has become your home away from home, but I know that you want to fight at home.
Yeah, 100%. I want to fight back in Belfast, and, there was talk about it being in June, and, look at this crowd. We'll sell out any area in Ireland, so We got to get back to Ireland.
I think there's going to be much beer left here in the city of New York after tonight. But what kind of statement did you want to make?
No, I wanted to take this guy out. I wanted to show that, you know, I've improved since my first year as a professional fighter, which I do feel I have, and especially under my new coach, even though we've only been together a little while, I feel I've improved ton loads. So, you know, I'm very thankful and very happy that I got to come here again with this fantastic crowd on a great St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, by the way. Much love always.
All right, you landed a body punch that most fighters would not have gotten up from. Walk me through that punch and what you thought when you saw him get up.
You know, I seen he kept committing, and then when as he done there, he dips down and brings his hands up, brings his guard up to block his face. And you know, once I turned to the southpaw stance, I felt that shot was going to be a comfortable shot for me to land. And the first one I threw, you know, it put him down. It looked like it sucked the life out of him. So you know, I was happy.
It's been a year. Walk me through what you've done to improve. You've got a new trainer in your corner after Manny Robles. Now, walk me through how you feel you've gotten better over this last year.
I feel I've just improved as an all-round fighter. I've got the experience of professional boxing, and I think I'm taking it in my stride now. Compared to when I did turn pro, it was like a sprint for me. I just wanted to take them out, which was the wrong thing to do, instead of breaking them down, which now I feel I'm doing. And you know, I left my old trainer Manny Robles, and it was no personal reasons. It was logistical for my family and stuff. And you know, now I've linked up with Adam Booth, and I feel I have a great connection with him.
Steve, Mick Conlan, 6-0. Were you impressed?
Look, he's winning. He's bowling people over. The opponent, look, let's be honest, the opponent the other night wasn't what you'd wasn't very good. You could have fought him on his debut. You'd have got him out of the way in the same amount of time. So he learnt nothing from the other night. It was all about going back to the garden, celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and more importantly, what's it like having Adam Booth in the corner on fight night, his first fight under Adam Booth. That's what it was all about. What I'd like to see now is him to move up in class over the next 2 or 3 fights. I know he's only had 6 fights, but he was a decorated amateur, fought in every major competition. He can be moved on a little bit now, I think. The actual fight the other night, it would have learnt nothing. It was a celebration of St. Patrick's Day the other night. No more than that, and that's nothing against Mick Conlan. I'm a massive fan for him, and I just want to keep seeing him and Shackle Stevenson unbeaten, and then in 18 months see a super fight between the pair.
Yeah, Shackle Stevenson, he's super young, isn't he? How old is Shackle Stevenson?
I think he's 20, is he?
20
or 21. He's younger than Mick
Conlan's 26.
Mick, yeah, he's 6 or 7 years younger than Mick. Is he 19 even?
Yeah, he may well be. He's a young kid. He was very young at the Olympics. Well, I'll say one thing that we are learning about Mick Conlan is his temperament to deal with this pressure. I mean, in your 6th professional fight, how many people are packing out that kind of? I know it was the theatre rather than the full arena. But
I don't think he'll ever have the pressure like he had on his pro debut there.
Yeah.
When he was in New York for 3-4 weeks beforehand, him and Matthew Macklin were going around bars selling tickets, getting his face out there. He handles the pressure well, and if you know the Conlan family, his brother Jamie, his dad John, they're a very they're very relaxed people. I mean, I've never been at home or anything, but whenever I've been around them filming, very calm people.
Yeah, well, he wants to come to back to Belfast and have a fight in June.
He's going to come back to Belfast.
Yeah.
I understand Top Rank are planning to do a show there at some stage in June with Mick Conlan.
Very nice. Well, I've got this Irish dream, Steve, and I think I've alluded to it in previous weeks. Yeah, let me talk you through it. Right, Frampton versus the winner of Selby Warrington / Oscar Valdez, even perhaps. Yeah, Paddy Barnes, same bill, world title shot. How about a bit of Mick Conlan in a bit of a step-up fight at featherweight? How about Ryan Burnett against Zolani Tete? How about that? Steve, give it to me. This can happen, right? You're talking the
greatest Irish boxing card in history.
Ever.
I can't see you getting all those fights on there, but for one reason or another with who's with who. But I think you could certainly get a couple of them on there.
Yeah. Allow me to dream, Steve.
It's funny, one I saw today where we mentioned talking to the Conlans, Jamie Conlan possibly fighting Roman Gonzalez.
Oh, really?
On May 5.
I like that. I like that a lot. That would be great. I mean, Gonzalez he's just gone through 2 absolute wars. He's a bit of a faded. I know the Yafai camp, Cal Yafai, they wanted to have that Roman Gonzalez fight.
Just a little thing. I was on the train coming down this morning, just read a little whisper of that fight on the Golovkin Canelo bill.
Very interesting. Well, that'd be a great fight if he can get it. Well, he's now 6-0, of course, Mick Conlan, and he wasn't the only fighter who made a statement this past Saturday in New York. Since Terence Crawford unified the 140-pound belts and then vacated all of them to move up to welterweight, there was a bit of a scramble for his old titles. The WBC version was contested by Jose Ramirez and Amir Imam on Saturday night. It was an entertaining bout, and the Californian native Ramirez won a unanimous decision over Imam. Here's what he had to say to Bernardo Osuna.
I want to thank God, I want to thank Top Ring, Bob Arum, first of all, my family for the support, my team, my manager Rick Merrigan, my coaches Freddie and Marvin, my co-man Miguel Diaz, and my strength and conditioning coach Charles for getting me ready for a 12-round war. This is what I got ready for, and I love the experience. I love getting my second win. I love being in there, and you could tell in the last championship round that I was having a great time. And Amir Imam is a great fighter, and he came well prepared. And it made a great fight for the boxing fans. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias a todos.
You said it's St. Patrick's Day. Now you've got green all over yourself, draped with the WBC belt. When you talk about your mom being here, and what did it mean for her to, for the first time ever, be able to fly across the country to be at your fight? Because I know how much it means to you.
I also want to proudly say that this fight was dedicated to my mother and to all the dreamers and to all the immigrants from Ireland, from Mexico, from Latinos, Hispanos, from the Asians to Europeans that make this country great. We're going to continue fighting for you guys. I'm going to continue making that step forward for a comprehensive immigration reform. We're going to continue fighting until all the hardworking people deserve what they need. And that's for them to live in peace here in the United States. Thank you.
Tonight, you were a hard worker. There was a point where Freddie told me he asked you to box more, and it reminded me of what happened when Freddie first met you at the Olympic training ground, where your trainer told you, hey, take it easy, protect the lead. You didn't do that. Why was it that you wanted to go out and prove a point tonight?
Because I'm a fighter, man. I'm a fighter, and this is what I signed up for, to fight. I'm glad I got to listen to him in the last couple rounds. It made it a little easier for me, to be honest. But you know what? I enjoyed every second in that ring. It was a proud moment for me to be in there and now be called a world champion. I feel very blessed, and it's a perfect ending to the story.
Well, Ramirez Imam was a cracking fight. There was some brilliant rounds there. Steve, do you like the look of Ramirez?
I like him a lot. I do like him. I think he's a good. I don't think he's an all-time great potential, but he's certainly one of those fellas who TV will like. And what he is, what's quite rare for, but I know he fought on the East Coast this time. On the West Coast, particularly on Fresno, where he comes from, he's a big ticket seller.
Yeah.
And you don't see a lot of those in America. Terence Crawford, when he goes to
Nebraska.
Yeah. And he's a big ticket seller on that West Coast, around Fresno in California. I think he's done good business in Reno before. I like Ramirez a lot, and I think Bob Arum will do his best to look after him.
And the fight itself was a bit of a cracker. I suggest you catch one of the repeats on BoxNation. There was a brilliant moment in the 8th round where you couldn't separate them. You could have literally lowered a phone box and placed it comfortably over them as they exchanged blows.
And it was bizarre scoring, one of the scorecards, wasn't it?
121.08. They gave it very wide. Yeah, even in the studio, no one was really kind of buying that. Now he's supposed to be fighting Regis Prograis, who won the silver title, and also on the same show, the up-and-coming Ukrainian light heavyweight Alexander Gvozdyk defeated a very game Mehdi Amar to pick up the WBC interim world title. It puts him in line to fight the winner of Adonis Stevenson and Badu Jack. Steve, thoughts?
Yeah, he's done well. Gvozdyk, is it 12 or 13 unbeaten?
I think it's 15 now.
15 is it now? I didn't realise. I'm a couple behind there. He hasn't quite made the same impact of his amateur pals, Usyk and Lomachenko, but he's going in the right direction. But would you really fancy him against any of the champions right now?
He seems to be a couple of steps behind, doesn't he?
Couple steps behind. Look, I'm sure he'll get his world title fight, and he could go on and win one. But I don't think he's going to make anything like the impact that his pals Lomachenko and Usyk are making.
And one thing I really enjoyed about Gvozdyk is his nickname, Steve.
Dev loves a nickname.
Oh, mate, this nickname, I love it. The Nail. Alexander the Nail Gvozdyk. When it comes to nicknames, these Eastern European fellas, I'm telling you, they know what they're doing. You got the Crusher, yeah, Triple G, the Matrix, the Iceman, Victor Postal, and now the Nail. Hopefully they don't step him up too soon, else the Nail may get hammered. Well, we are a 24/7 boxing channel, and here's a little taste of what we've got coming up. Thursday at 7:30, we've got Liam Smith, the man of the moment, just now, in his rematch against Liam Williams. So that was at the tail end of last year. It seems like an end to that feud, although I don't know. I reckon they're going to fight again at some point.
Hey, they could fight again. I mean, you know, why not? You know, I think there was the respect is there now that wasn't there before. There was a lot of a real undercurrent to the build-up of that fight. It was really, you know, you get guys hyping fights to sell tickets, but it was really prickly to build up to both those fights. You know, it started off quite calm, and it quickly didn't spiral out of control, but it always seemed it was only you were very near to going a little bit too far with the needle before that. I mean, you know what, Liam Williams look back at both fights now, and you know he'll think what I could have done, but Liam Smith's gone on. He's got his world title fight, and you know what? I'm sure Liam Williams will be cheering him on that night when he's watching on BoxNation when he challenges Sadam Ali for his old WBO crown when he attempts to become a two-time world champion.
Absolutely. Well, that's Thursday at 7:30. Smith versus Williams 2. Friday, 2 o'clock. Now, this really stood out to me because it's a triple header. So, Prince Nassim Hamid against Daniel Alicia, Joe Calzaghe against Branko Sobot, and Steve Lillis, you know, pardon my pronunciation if I've got that wrong, and Scott Harrison against Walter Estrada. Steve, what do you know about this show?
Naz Hamid against Daniel Alicia was a really good Puerto Rican. I think he was unbeaten in 14 or 15 when he fought Naz. I'm not saying he was going to be an all-time great, but he'd showed a lot of potential, and the people who looked after him put him in with Naz far too early in his career, and he was pretty much ruined after that. I mean, he went on and still won fights, but I think he ended up losing 7 or 8 times in his career. But he could have been a really good fighter, Daniel Alicia, but met Naz far too early in his career.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Well, you've teed that up nicely for the viewers to tune in Friday at 2 o'clock for that episode of BoxNation Presents. Now, Friday at 7 o'clock will be Bunce's Boxing Hour. It's live. It's free to air on Sky Channel 437. We'll try and bring it to you live on Facebook as well. Steve Lillis is always able to give us a little sneak peek of what's going to be on the show, but this week he's looking at me bemused, baffled.
It's a prize package this week. If I was here in 24 hours time, I could tell you what would be going on, but I'm sure there'll be a couple of studio guests and looking ahead to some of the great fights we got coming up over the next couple of months.
I'm sure we will. Now, here's another one for you. Sunday at 9 o'clock, right? 9 a.m. I'm talking the morning here. You're up. Yeah, you couldn't get that long lie-in that you've been promising yourself. You have a look at what's on telly and it's all boring. Yeah, Sunday morning TV is rubbish. Well, not on BoxNation. Yeah, because 9 a.m. Ricky Hatton versus John Thaxton. Oh, Steve Lillis, the face on you. Good fight.
What a fight that was. What a fight that was.
Was that a British title?
Yeah, to be on at 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, it's not for the faint-hearted, that fight. And, oh dear, what a great fight that was.
Well, yeah, if you fancy a violent start to your Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, we've got Hatton against Thaxton. Steve, you're looking at me like you want to add something. Go on.
I'll tell you what, that night at Wembley Conference Centre, Saturday night it was, and it was one of the most brutal nights of boxing. Beautifully brutal, shall I say, ever. On the same bill, besides that bloodbath, Danny Williams and Mark Potter boxed each other.
Is that where he broke his arm?
Danny dislocated his shoulder, was fighting one-handed, and then found his right shoulder went in about the 5th round. I think Frank Warren might have been calling for Jim McDonald to pull him out. He went out for the 6th round, couldn't use his right hand, found his left hand, and knocked Mark Spark out.
Oh, wow.
Incredible. And also on that fight, Jason Rowland beat, I think it was a Ukrainian, Victor Barrett. I'm not sure if Victor was Ukrainian or Russian. Apologise if I'm giving Victor the wrong nationality. She won't like that. Anyway, it was Jason Rowland, Victor Baronoff. Rowland won on points, and what a tough fight that was. Absolute fantastic night at Wembley Conference Centre for all involved.
Well, there you go. Sunday 9 o'clock. There's no better way to sell it than Steve Lillis. describing it just then. Now go to BoxNation.com to subscribe to the channel, to watch it on TV. If you want to watch it on your tablet, on your laptop, on your phone, go to watch.boxnation.com and we've got you covered there with an online HD stream. So Steve, another week, another great show. We've heard from Beefy, we've heard from Beefy's coach Joe Gallagher, Ohara Davies, Jack Catterall, Zelfa Barrett. The list goes on, but you are looking at me like I've forgotten something. Yeah, I see it.
I know what's coming now. I know what's coming. I do follow you on Twitter, you know.
Yeah, you've been keeping an eye. Well, you've heard the advice coming my way from the likes of Ohara Davies, from the likes of Zelfa Barrett, about how to get in touch with the referee, Steve Willis.
You still haven't found him.
Hold on. Now, Odie suggested, spamming the life out of him, which is kind of what I've been doing. But Zelfa Barrett was a little more tactful. He suggested going via Frank Warren. Look, I'm not going to ask Frank. He's obviously a busy man. He's got shows to put on. He's got fighters to look after, careers to nurture. I'm not sure he's going to spend the time to try and hook me up with Steve Willis. However, there is one man who may prove to be the key to unlock this interview. Now, this man has actually emailed Steve Willis on my behalf. Marcus McDonnell. Yeah, the UK referee. How about that, Steve?
Marcus, he's a slightly older brother of Jim McDonnell.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he's
okay.
Jim McDonnell's brother, Marcus. Very nice fella. I know Marcus a lot of years. Once I was on a newspaper and... I was working for the Daily Sport at the time. I don't think I was at the Sport. I've gone to the News of the World then. So, Sports, or the editor of the paper, Tony Livesey was the editor of the Sport at the time, who's now on BBC Radio.
Yeah.
We need an April Fool's joke, Steve.
Go on.
We need a serious April Fool's joke. Someone's got to come up with one. We've got 2 days and Dave Sullivan, the publisher, wants a funny April Fool's joke. What do? I come up with a suggestion and see if I could pull it together.
Go on. What was it?
The Marcus and Jim McDonnell, I've got Jim dressed up as a referee, Marcus dressed up as a boxer. I said they were changing roles.
Oh, wow.
I don't think the Border Control were too impressed, actually.
Well, Marcus McDonnell, clearly a bit of a character, and
he's got a good sense of humour, Marcus.
Yeah, no, we've been DMing back and forth. How this all came about was there's been a ton of Steve Willis videos going around online. People
They're fantastic with the eyes, aren't they?
I think I've brought this to life. Because there's all sorts of memes and stuff going out there.
But don't bring him to life. Bring his phone number to me and an arrangement to speak to him.
Well, this
You're
may
the
happen.
producer, the director, the presenter of this podcast. There's my challenge to you, Dev.
Yeah, well, let's see if I can work this miracle. Well, this Marcus McDonnell started tweeting saying, "This ref is my mate from the US. Not only is he a good referee, he's also a stand-up comedian in New York, as we learned in previous shows, Steve. And he's one funny guy. You get the chance to see his act, you'll love it." So I then messaged Marcus McDonnell saying, we're trying to get him on the podcast, and he said he's going to email him and try. So, keen as you like, I actually messaged him the next day saying, "Any luck?" And he was like, "Oh, I've just checked, it's stuck in my outbox." So these are the sort of barriers I'm having to overcome. Yeah, emails getting stuck in outboxes. Yeah, messages being ignored, maybe not even being sent. But he has emailed him now, and we wait to hear the response.
You pull this one off, you're just not going to turn up 1 week to record this podcast. You're just going to leave the cans there. They'll be empty. I've done my job. You with Lillis and Willis, talk for an hour.
Absolutely. I can retire after that. I mean, no, I couldn't. I've not made anywhere near enough money. Now, please give us some love and leave us a review on iTunes. I am reliably informed that over 6 billion people are listening to the show every week, yet we've only had 50-odd reviews. So let's get that number up. 5 stars only, of course. And remember to tweet us any comments at BoxNation TV, at Steve Lillis, at SarniDev, and let's not forget Instagram. Yeah, Steve Lillis is on Instagram. He loves it. He's Lillis Steve. Check out all his running and all that. You love it, didn't you?
I haven't been on it for a couple, hardly at all the last week. I'll have to get more onto it.
Okay, well, Steve Lillis is every now and again. He's on Instagram. I'm on there all the time. Yeah, stories and all sorts. Generally, just kind of pushing the podcast. And BoxNation has a fantastic Instagram page which you can follow too. And remember to subscribe to the best boxing channel in the world, 24/7 boxing, at BoxNation.com.